InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and to my right, our guest is Carol Jungman. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you.
And to my furthest right is Buckley. Welcome, Buck.
Thank you.
Let me tell you a little bit about our guest, and looking forward to this show about the Matrix. And it's not about the movie, is it?
No.
Or the car.
Carol is a trainer and consultant with Matrix Leadership Institute. Her work spans the areas of relationship, leadership, multicultural awareness, interpersonal communication, and systemic change. She also manages White Lotus Retreat Center in South Haven, Michigan. Carol received her BS in business and her MS in organizational development. You want to add anything to your bio?
Thank you.
And Buck is a Matrix leadership facilitator, an individual and couples counselor. His office is in Chicago. Used to be on the same floor as myself. His counseling and group work includes 14 years of shamanism experience. Buck has a BBA from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and was a PhD candidate in transpersonal psychology at the Union Institute. All right, who wants to take the first question? What can people accomplish with Matrix leadership training? You want to go?
Great question, sure. I'll take a stab at it, and then Buck might have some
Sure.
things to add. So the training we do is twofold. We do individual trainings for people who are interested in personal, professional growth. And that really is, it's training about how to create a group into a living system. So it works on multiple levels at the same time. And then we also work in systems, in organizations, with teams, and do the same kind of work.
Okay, well, let's go back. How to take a group into a living system. What does that mean?
You want a complicated question.
Yeah, what is taking a group into a living system mean?
Some of the elements, if I can remember all of them, are to have a openness in the group and transparency, to maintain.
Gee, can you take that to our government?
That would take a lot of
We
work.
might get arrested.
Right.
Subversive, radical. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it is a little different to facilitate openness and transparency. Also to be sure that we maintain and build connections between everyone in the system. And the part that makes it a living system is that it evolves organismically, so that differences and conflict or role changes or personal integration through body, mind, and spirit happens, and it's all brought into the group process instead of just within one individual.
And so what is the Matrix doing that other group theorists aren't doing? You know, what is so special about the Matrix?
Well, I think what makes us special is that our approach is through the interpersonal. So there's lots of work that's been done historically on therapy and intrapsychic work, and there's a lot of stuff that's been done on the systemic. And we bring in those two levels, but we connect it all through the interpersonal, so that that we help people really to build relationships and to maintain those relationships in a group or a system. It could be a family, it could be a church group, it could be any kind of work group. You know, people are in groups all the time, but we just don't have the tools to know how to be really effective in groups and how to intervene when things get dysfunctional.
Well, I know there's like different roles in a group. There's like a task leader, emotional leader, defiant leader.
Right.
Does Matrix get into roles and try
Definitely.
to...
Yeah, we find it essential that the roles get distributed so that it doesn't get identified just with one person. And if they're what we call conflict pairs or difference pairs, that whatever issue is that comes up there doesn't just show up between them, that also gets distributed within the whole group system.
So and how would you distribute the conflict or the difference among the the members of the group.
Well, okay, so if Carol and I were having a conflict, as a facilitator, we'd want them to for us to name that exactly what the conflict and the difference is. And then one way to do that is to ask anyone else in the group if they have a version of that, if there's some part of what we're experiencing that they have also had. The other thing that happens is when you have conflict showing up, beneath conflict is the movement towards differentiation. It's really the group and the individuals trying to differentiate, and the conflict shows up. So remember that serving the differentiation process is really important for the group to form safety and to move towards what we call a group intelligence.
Now,
Wholeness.
I did study group therapy in college, and I learned that conflict isn't necessarily bad, that after conflict, if there's a resolution, the group is now functioning at a higher level.
That's definitely true.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
with conflict, too, oftentimes we're so uncomfortable with it that we want to move it to some sort of resolution. We want to get all the questions answered, or we want people to be happy again. And I think what we try to do is to sit in it a little bit and to allow the various aspects of that conflict to be expressed, so that then there's some like you're talking about, this new thing that can develop, that can come from that conflict.
To reach a higher paradigm.
Exactly. Whether it's a new question, that kind of over an umbrella question that overarches, or whether it's to get at some of the underlying assumptions that the two people might hold. But it's really conflict. We try to redefine it as a group phenomenon. It's not just between two people. It's something that everybody in a group should take responsibility for.
Well, one of the most important things is feeling safe, whether it be emotionally safe or physically safe. Do you have safeguards to protect the safety of the individual members when there is conflict? And you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, we operate with ground rules for sure.
Yeah.
But I think one of the
Say
other underlying things that we have is we really work towards inclusiveness, right? So there's not this ability for people to get scapegoated or devalued. Or even re-traumatized. I mean, I think in some group contexts, there's been a lot of different group trainings out there, and we really we pay attention to, and we take a lot of pains that people aren't re-traumatized or re-triggered in a way that's unhealthy. So.
And what are some of the ground rules that you might have
that's a
for a
great
group?
Well, one of the things we start off with first is for people to build connections with each other that are what we call a ground of health, which is just sort of ordinary interactions about curiosity or sharing something that's simple but real and meaningful, so that people don't go into their woundedness, so to speak, or the things that are most troubling to them as a way to connect. That they connect through their strengths first. That really helps the sense of security. And then there's a gradual movement towards more personal risk if that's appropriate for somebody.
Right. People can choose
Yeah.
if they decide to talk about something or not talk about something. So they're making that choice.
Well, like I was thinking, ground rule: one person talks at a time. Or like each member gets 30 seconds to talk, or something like.
Well,
that.
that brings up another point of our what I'd say a difference that we offer in this training is that we are having people connect person to person. So if you look at the diagram, and that would be a situation where a group might be optimized because all of the individuals are connected. So if each point on that diagram is akin to an individual person in a group, I want to make sure that my channels of communication are open with each and every other person in that group. So we don't talk to the center of the room, we talk to each other, so that I'm building a connection with Buck about something specific and he's building it back with me. So that way we have an open channel that we can then use when things get tough, right? Then you want to be able to use that relationship and feel safe enough with that person.
So in that diagram, that's 3, 6, there's 8. How many is there? Like 64 different possible communications?
It's the sum of n
Yes.
minus 1. So you can do the math.
Yeah.
But there is a chart. Like you can see it. It's really like an exponential chart, right? With 2 people, you have 1 connection. With 3 people, you have 3 connection. With 4 people, you have, I I think, 6 connections. With 5 people, I don't know, 12 or something. It goes up and up and up and up.
And so with 8?
Whatever.
I think it is 64.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the sum of n minus 1. I don't exactly know, but it's somewhere close to that. It's a lot of connections, right? I mean, it's a lot to manage.
Right, and between the 3 of us, well, that's a lot of connections right there,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so we also pay attention to inclusivity, right? We want to make sure that all the voices get in, that that no one feels left out. Or
and some people, I guess in Bradshaw's work, called the ghost child or the invisible child, and people tend to take on the same role in groups as an adult that they took on when they were growing up in families?
Yeah, they do. And we actually work with that quite a bit.
Yeah,
And how do you work with that?
well, okay, here's an example.
Okay.
One exercise we do at the beginning of a training is to have people pay attention to what we call their entry style, which often is this role as a child that you're referring to. Like, how do they enter the group? How do they first present themselves to the group? And what happens is people's entry styles often get labeled with it, and they get restricted into that role so that they can't differentiate. We don't allow that to happen. I mean,
How do you prevent it?
Well, it happens, and then we work with it. It happens, and then we work with it.
But isn't, like the people's, the way they dress
Sure,
and what they
lots of
look like,
projection,
even before the group first gets together,
Yeah.
just the way that,
The first impression.
yeah.
Yeah.
well, and part of that is often people aren't aware of what they're doing. They aren't aware that they're having what we call an entry style.
Right.
And because we promote a lot of feedback between individuals, that's where people who don't understand what their entry style is get information back from how they're impacting other people in the group.
And that's where a lot of learning can happen.
Yeah, that's
on the personal level, right? And then also, the interpersonal is how we do affect each other, and we take responsibility for that as well.
So why the word matrix in matrix leadership?
It's a really rich word. It has some Latin root, right? So there's mater, which is mother, matrice, which is like womb or container. So it reflects the container that we're trying to set up, that web of connections that people can then come to rely upon as the group matures.
Yeah, and when you look at that matrix diagram, it looks of strength. That if you have all of those individual connections are strong, then the whole group is strong.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and that allows for the living system aspect, right? For what we call collective intelligence to emerge, because each connection can hold perhaps more than what we're used to, and we can rely on it. And then we're really working with this idea that the sum is greater, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. But it's not just a phrase. We really try to embody that in creating all the connections to have dynamism and free flow of information. and that
Now,
sort of
it's
thing.
matrix leadership, so you explained the matrix
Not
part
the leadership.
in matrix leadership. Now, how about the leadership? Where does that come from?
what we're attempting to do is to have people find ways that they can be a leader, or can be a leader in their own life, whether it's in a work situation or with friends or with family. Even people that don't consider themselves leaders, that I don't mean the kind of leader where everyone follows them, but there's a leading by example, by like the impact or the power of my own being, or the potency of the expression of my feelings, or the
I can explain it this way.
Okay.
You always talk about being the person on the outside that you truly are on the inside.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're leading with your true or higher self.
Authentic self, right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, from one more thing, from a systems perspective too, if you're in a system that you're unhappy with, that to recognize that you're a player in that system, and that you can actually do something, you can begin to intervene. And if you don't, then you're actually giving that system permission to continue